one of the things gripping the nation is the economy, right? And one of the sub conversations is the real estate market that is nuts right now. And we live in an area that is equally as insane as anywhere else in the United States. The median house price for Reno, Nevada is over $500,000. Homes are on the market for, 2 hours before they get 20, 30 offers, 10 to 15 to 20% over asking. It's nuts here.
It is nuts here.
One of the things that I can't believe it has actually taken me this long to even think about, let alone bring up on the podcast, is the crazy real estate market has also had a negative effect on you, Deb, as an individual. Do you know where I'm going with this yet?
I don't know. Go ahead.
One of the things my mother loves to do when there are houses for sale in the neighborhood, she likes to go maybe walk through an open house if there's a realtor there. But one of the things my mom, Deb, really likes to do is if the house is for sale and it's not owner occupied, she might find her way over to the house on a casual Sunday, park in the driveway, and just very unassumingly walk the grounds of the house. And she may or may not try the front door on the back door just to see if it's unlocked. And if it's unlocked, you then maybe sometimes might just meander through. Give yourself your own 360-degree view of the interior of the house. Make a little video for yourself.
I don't make a video.
Send it to me to say, Kevin, look at the space in this room. And then, because oftentimes you and I are thick as thieves, I'll receive a message that says, come down to 425 Circle Drive. Why? Because there's a house I want you to see. And little do I know, you're actually walking around in the house.
Okay, this is such an exaggeration.
No, it's not.
I cannot even believe it. First of all, if there is an address called 425 Circle Drive, we never walked.
Oh, I just made that up
okay.
off the top of my head.
Know that we have never gone into your house. Secondly, maybe. I think the example you're referring to was somebody we knew, and it was they had left the house. They'd kind of abandoned the house.
There's a prime example of the story for sure. But Deb, to say that this has only happened once in your life is a lie.
It was another friend that actually said to me, you got to go look at this house. And by the way, it's open.
For sure. So
that's how it happened.
During the last real estate crisis, we had friends who lived about a mile from here. And they were more acquaintances than friends. Right, and they lived in a very nice, opulent home.
Right.
And snap of a finger, they were gone.
Yep.
Nobody had any idea where they went.
Yep.
Only found out later that I think they moved to Vegas. The wife shortly thereafter passed away, and the house was just left.
Yeah.
Absolutely left. And this was a nice home in a very nice area.
We are assuming at that point, though we don't know, that perhaps a bank owned it somewhere. We don't know.
Maybe.
We don't know.
Somebody that we didn't know or some entity owned it.
And I don't think there was technically a for sale sign yet, was there?
For sure.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
On more than one occasion. And this makes sense, like why kids find their way into abandoned homes, why less than desirable entities find their way into abandoned homes. Because sometimes if the home, and is just sitting there vacant, you go try a handle, you go try a window. And this whole thing was open. The front door was open. The back door was open. You could walk up the steps to the upper patio. That thing was open. And you just had, and the proverbial you being everybody, just had free reign of the house.
And there were things in the house of value.
There was appliances left in the house.
There were beautiful appliances in the house. I mean, it was a little crazy. And it was a little crazy how many people actually walked through that house, just like we did.
That house had easily 10 to 15 no realtor walkthroughs
that we know about.
For sure.
Yeah.
But this is not like Deb, you have found your way to other homes in this area where you have, and here's the best part about it. It's not like she says to me, hey, I'm just going to go look for homes to see if sliders are open. I mean, you're not going into owner occupied homes. You're not going into homes where there's like actual furniture where things can be stolen.
No.
You make sure that there's nothing at all in these homes, and you always do it during the middle of the day.
Yeah, so there's no nefarious thing.
No, not at all.
And in fact, I might even lock the door after I leave.
For sure.
I mean, I'm that kind of person. This hasn't gone on for a while because the homes, in fact, are not on the market.
I was going to say, the byproduct of this real estate market being insane is there's a little thing Deb likes to do that she hasn't been able to do for like 2 or 3 years now.
Well, I don't think there's been an open house, literally an open house, in Reno for how many years? I mean, you know how you used to see those all the time on the weekend? We don't see them anymore, ever.
No, there's that one house on the corner from us that is overpriced by probably $400,000 that will remain that way.
And it's open every weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
But even then, that would not be a viable Deb search house because it's so exposed.
Right. It's super exposed. And there are people, here's the other thing. Whoever owns it in the realtor, there's a lot of activity around that house. So
that's a no-go house.
That's a no-go house, yeah.
But there has been at least 2 or 3 homes that I have accompanied you with to where the best part is she like I said, she just like at the end of running errands, I'll be like, oh, maybe it feels like it's taking Deb a little bit longer. And then she'll pull up to the driveway. She'll be like, hey, hop in the car real quick. And I'll say, why? She's like, I want to show you this house. I'm like, okay, that's nothing crazy. And then she'll pull into the driveway, which is a little weird, and she'll park it, which is very weird. And then she'll say, just come around the side gate with me. And we'll just traverse the side gate. And she's like, the slider's open. It's totally fine. There's no alarm system. We can just walk through. They have a beautiful master bedroom that I want you to see.
Yeah. Oh, I know the house you're talking about now. Yeah.
And so this story has grown legs to where our friend Amy Chan in New Orleans has said, so wait a minute. You just walk around total strangers' homes with your mom and nothing bad happens? I said, I mean, what bad could happen? She's like, I don't know. Try being a minority and doing that. I was like, okay, fair point.
We are not criminals. We don't even act like criminals. There's nothing sneaky.
We would say, hey, we were just doing a in-depth view of the house. Is this technically trespassing? Yes. Is this light-hearted B&E? Yes.
No breaking, no entering. Entering maybe, no breaking.
No breaking, sliding, or opening, and then definitely entering.
So here's what I would say if, like, the police came.
Yep.
I would say,
this isn't my house. What am I doing in here?
Nope. I would say, I thought it was an open house. I tried the door because in open houses, sometimes they just, you try the door.
Yep.
And then I walked in and I'm like hollering for the realtor.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's no realtor.
I didn't smell any cookies.
I didn't smell any
There
cookies.
were no flyers.
No flyers. I looked all around to be sure. And then I realized the back doors were open as well. So I thought, okay, I am going to look at the house while I'm here.
Of course.
Admit to that. But then I'm going to lock it up when I leave so that the criminals and the vandals can't have access.
Yeah. If anything, you said, I wanted to make sure nothing bad happened here.
Right.
That I needed to check every single room and the attic and the basement and the crawl spaces just to make sure the realtor was safe, as were the homeowners.
And to determine if it was a load-bearing wall that I wanted to remove.
Exactly. And then I brought my son back because he's tall and he could look at the higher landings to make sure there were no dead bodies up there as well.
Well, yes. And I do want to say to Miss Amy Chan, she did me the delight of taking me to an open house in New Orleans when we were there. So up my alley.
Notice how this segment started with Deb pushing back. And then one of the things on her list to do in New Orleans was go to an open house because the story has loomed so large in other people's heads.
It was a great old house.
It was. It would have been much better had the realtor not been there.
Oh, had the realtor not been there, we would have had a grand time for sure.
I don't know. I think I've just consumed so much real estate knowledge, and I've thought like, okay, buying a house is crazy, but I've also thought I feel like we've spent so much more time looking at homes and in the past, and then I realized, oh, we do that because so many homes have been on the market before and they just sat empty for so long that eventually somebody forgot to lock something, and then old cat burglar Deb, had her little intuition and said, oh, but there's a door open here.
You're right. We have done it a couple times.
I know we've done it.
Yeah,
if it was a one-off, this wouldn't have registered with me. But the fact that we are now serial felons is not lost on me. I don't know can we be tried? Can we be tried if we admit to this? Especially if we don't give the address of the home?
No, we've just admitted to generally doing it and locking it up afterwards. We've made it safer we left it better than we found it.
As with everything, this is just a comedy podcast. We're just making up the stuff. This is just fun things in no way real, and in no way could we point to every single home that we've walked through completely by ourselves with no realtors who left a door open.
I was reading this article this weekend on the news, and it was like some small town. Like the owner of the house described the town as a working man's town.
Okay, a little blue-collar town.
Blue-collar town. And this fellow had bought his mother's house from her. It was the house he grew up in.
Yep.
And the mother had said she wanted him to pass it down to his son. She wanted her grandson to have the house. So the father bought it. He technically owns it, but the grandson and his wife are living in it. And it showed a picture of it. It was a very modest but very well-kept property, but very modest home. I think it was like 4 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Yep.
Looked like a little ranch, simple little ranch. Nice little backyard. He bought it I think 3 or 4 years ago for $55,000.
Got it.
He has received over 100 offers in the mailbox. I'm interested in buying your house. And he said triple, quadruple the price as is, will close cash tomorrow in this little no-name town. And he just said everybody, it doesn't matter. I mean, now it doesn't matter if it's a huge city anymore. It's happening everywhere.
And if you want somebody to take a tour of a house for you, maybe skirting the law a little bit in the process, which podcast is the #1 podcast for felonious B&Es.
I'm your girl.
Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. Fresh off another whirlwind tour with 2 hours of sleep to her name, wondering if she can get through the next hour. It's my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And I told her on the ride home, play like a champion and you can nap when it's over. I'm her son, Kev, and this is our podcast. On today's show, in her business segment today, Deb is going to talk to the employees of the world when she digs into what to do when there's an absence of leadership in the workplace. I have scoured the best of new questions for Dear Debbie, and we will wrap it all up by telling you what we're thankful for and what's for dinner. Spoiler alert, looking at Deb, it looks like we're going to be ordering out. But first, Deborah, how are you feeling? You are very tired. We are recording this podcast less than an hour after you've gotten off of a plane. I said, let's rip this Band-Aid off so that you can just have the rest of the day free. Are you sleepy?
I'm okay right now. I could not keep my eyes open. I tried to read. I tried to, watch a movie on the plane. There was no way. I would just fell asleep. I mean,
got it.
And that horrible nodding, not really sleeping.
Yep.
But I think I had a Diet Coke on the last leg of the flight.
Love it.
And I drank it all for sure.
Nice.
And then, I don't know, getting out, it's beautiful here. You picked me up. You said, go do something with yourself.
I said, hey, I know this doesn't sound like the most fun thing to do, but if we wait till longer to do this podcast, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So maybe go, fluff that hair up, put some rouge on your cheeks, and let's just get this thing going.
So here we are. Yeah. Here we are.
I'll check in with you every 15 minutes to get a status update. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Fun thing, you were gone this weekend, and I became an adult because I was asked to house sit / dog sit this weekend.
Yeah, big responsibility, Kev.
Why our friend of the podcast, Alyssa, decided to have me watch her home and new dog, I don't know, because I must have been the bottom of the barrel when it came to who's responsible enough to do all this stuff. But I jumped at the opportunity. She was going back to Chicago, and then I think she was going to a family event. And I said, sure, great. Why not? A bunch of things. I am a phenomenal house sitter.
Oh, okay.
I am a phenomenal dog watcher. There is 2 things you have to accomplish while sitting on houses and watching dogs.
Sitting on houses. Oh, I see. House sitter.
Right.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it. Yeah.
Make sure the house is still standing.
Right.
Make sure the dog doesn't die. That's it.
That's it.
Those are the 2 things to make you a successful dog sitter, house watcher, or interchange the 2. I'm happy to say the house still fully standing. The dog very much alive. Now, all the details in between are really up to the person asking you to watch the house and watch the dog. Meaning, am I going to leave the house clean? Is the dog been fed?
Did you have
walked,
other people
peed,
over?
Pooped? Did you have a party at my house? How many things burned? Did you wash the sheets afterwards? Let me tell you why I am a phenomenal house sitter, guest of the house owner, dog watcher.
Sitter. Yeah.
First off, she has a brand new dog, and it's not like a puppy. It's a 10-month-old Labradoodle.
Golden Doodle, I think.
I think it's a huge golden doodle.
Is it?
You've seen it. It's a monster dog.
It's so cute.
So here's what happened. This dog was purchased in the middle of the pandemic last year.
Yeah, by another family.
Yeah, it's only 10 months old. It was bought by a family of 4. Parents, 2 kids. Like a lot of people during the pandemic, they're having another kid. And they realized that 5 plus a dog is too much. So less than a year after owning this dog, which I'm sure they paid a premium to get at the jump, they surrendered it back to some, Labradoodle, Golden Doodle shelter. The great thing about this dog, whose name is Phoebe, she's fully trained. Like they dumped money into buy her, and then they dumped money into training her.
She's amazing. She's way better than our dogs.
She runs laps around our dogs when it comes to obedience. We need to have those dogs go impress on, or have her go impress on our dogs. She doesn't bark at all.
That might have been a little overtraining. Do you think?
Nope. I hate it when dogs bark. And she will listen to other dogs bark in the neighborhood, and she'll look at me being like, bad behavior. And I'll say, yeah, that's bad behavior, Phoebes. We don't do that. And you'll appreciate this. Whenever you open a door and there's a dog behind you, you kind of have to stand your ground, because the crack of the door, you're waiting for them to dive bomb your knee and just take you out. She waits for you to walk through the door, and then like the ladiest of all ladies just kind of prances in after you. So sweet. And then because she's still a puppy, right? She's only 10 months old. She's got all like the goofy mannerisms of a little dog, where she's like, when she sleeps, she's like straight on her back, legs spread, tongue out to the side, just
so cute,
so freaking adorable. And she's just the most mild-mannered animal. So taking care of her has actually been very nice, because she's so low maintenance and I don't have to worry about anything. She knows to pee outside. She knows to drink copious amounts of water. I made a mistake where I put some ice cubes in her water dish.
Oh no. And
then I just went to the bathroom. I came out and it was just a massive lake of water, and her tail was just wagging. I mean, but it spanned from the bowl 5 feet out in either direction. Took a picture of it, sent it to Alyssa, said, note to self, ice cubes in the water bowl outside.
Outside, yeah. So she loved it.
She adored it, but she's so easy to please because she's already been surrendered once. Her owner of less than a week is gone. So she's just like, whatever you want, dude. Just don't, leave me. Yeah. Here's where I got thrust into adulthood. Caring for another living thing is not nerve-wracking, but the responsibility that comes with that, it's daunting. I feel awful leaving her every time I left her.
Well, okay, those are two different things. The responsibility of taking care of her is fairly easy because Phoebe is crate trained.
Totally.
And Phoebe is happy and sweet and so grateful for someone in her life to love her and play with her.
Yep. Because at this point, she thinks she's been abandoned twice.
Right. So that part shouldn't be too daunting. The daunting part seems to be your emotional attachment to Phoebe.
But that's all intertwined, which is, as a human being, if I go purchase a dog, that dog is now my responsibility for forever. And clearly at 36 years old, with no wife or kids or responsibilities besides this podcast and work, I can live a footloose and fancy-free life. I can come and go as I want. I can book trips. I can just leave this house for 5 days at a time, and nothing bad is going to happen for as far as I know. That dog is such an anchor, both physically and emotionally. I just find myself watching the clock, being like, well, I've been away for an hour and a half. Probably only have an hour and a half left before I have to get back there. Oh my gosh, I've been away for 3 hours. Got to get into the car and speed home to make sure she's still alive.
Now, keep in mind that Phoebe is perfectly house trained. She's not going, well, she's in a crate, but she's also not going to chew anything up. She's not going to pee. Yeah. I mean, she's well equipped to take care of herself.
But there's a time limit on that because she's still 10 months old. So I think it's between 3 and 4 hours. I can feel comfortable being away from that dog. But after hour 2, I feel horribly guilty not being there.
I like that.
I hate that. Is that what responsibilities feel like?
Oh my God, you have no idea.
And then I can only imagine with kids, it's
I've got
infinite.
to feed him. I've got to get him.
Right.
I got to go there. I can't sit here at Starbucks with my girlfriend anymore because it's dinner time.
Exactly. Because I'm looking at this dog being like, you're literally the best dog in the world. The responsibilities are minimal with you because you're so capable of just fending for yourself and being okay. But even still, I'm like, well, I've been gone. She could be dead.
Well, you remember I was there when Alyssa was giving you instructions on the house. We had stopped by because that's when we first met Phoebe. And we took Izzy to meet Phoebe.
Yep.
And Alyssa said to you, I will turn the camera away. Do you remember she said that?
Oh, yeah. She has a little puppy cam to watch the crate while she's in there.
I won't watch you. But the camera was straight on in the living room.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then I got, while I was gone, a picture from the Ring doorbell of me walking in the front door with a watermelon and caramel cheddar popcorn for you. Yeah. And I thought, she's going to catch him no matter what he does. It just makes me laugh.
Yeah, don't worry. I immediately unplugged the living room camera because there's a 100% chance that I was going to forget that thing was on and then just walk around
half naked
in the buff at some point in time. Because here's the other thing. She sleeps for 7 hours. She's totally fine with that. But that means that she's awake at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Early.
I'm usually awake between 7 and 7:30. So that hour and a half is a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when you're being woken up with a semi-wet face licking your hands or toes or nose. And so that's just the reality of another living thing that's like, hey, I don't want to poop in this house. Can you go open the slider so I can poop out there? Oh, we're awake. Let's play.
Yeah.
I have thrown the ball for her probably 500 times simply because I want her to be exhausted when I leave. This is the construct I put in my head.
This is how you're rationalizing it.
I'm going to tire her out so much that she's actually looking forward to me leaving. And it's funny because she's a puppy. She never runs outside to go to the bathroom. It's only when I start throwing the ball for her that I guess it just jiggles things loose inside her that she decides to go to the bathroom. So now I have this responsibility of coaxing her to go to the bathroom through play. All of this being said, wow, being an adult is a lot.
Yeah, having to make sure that the house is well cared for.
Right.
That the dog is fed and watered.
And now, but as a house guest, I wash the sheets.
Oh, Kev.
Clean the dishes.
Did you put them back on the bed?
Put them right back on the bed.
Oh my God, you are good.
Washed all the towels.
Kevin.
The dishes went back. I had to hand wash some other stuff. Phoebe, because of all the play, tracked some grass in, Swiffered up all the grass.
Oh my gosh.
Alyssa is trying to put in a doggy door so that she doesn't have to keep the slider open. For whatever reason, in her area, there is just a swarm of flies that exist. Like, I know Lord of the Flies isn't about flies, but
right. Well, they're out right now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have committed fly genocide. I have killed so many flies, but I've made sure to clean up as many of them as possible. I'm not saying that could be a side hustle cottage industry for me, but if any of you want me, the most like proficient dog sitting house watcher, to come over and make sure I left your house infinitely better than when I found it, here's what I charge. Room and board. And you have to let me have free reign of your refrigerator and your freezer.
Yeah.
That's it.
Alyssa left a note and said, eat anything you want. Really. I mean it. Eat it. Yeah. And
I did. Yeah. I brought a lot of food from home, but I ate a lot of the stuff because she is gluten-free and she found some amazing snacks that were gluten-free, and all of those got sampled 1 or 2 times.
Nice.
Yeah. But here, what's funny is the best part is she left on Thursday. I think I was at the house by myself for, 4 hours before Deb comes walking in with a full watermelon and snacks. And she's like, I just wanted to bring you something. I was like, I was at home 3 hours ago.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was pretty funny. Really what I wanted you to do is cut that watermelon in half and take half of it. But nothing ever came back with me. So
no, I did cut it in half, and both halves are now sitting in that refrigerator.
At her refrigerator?
Yeah.
Oh, so you left something. That's nice. Aren't you sweet?
I'm a good guy like that. Just putting it out there. House sitter extraordinaire. If you want to fly me, I happily will take airfare.
So at Kevin Zehner.
Yep.
And just, DM him.
Yep.
Say, I got a dog. I'd really like you to take care of my dog. I'd like you to take care of my house.
Yeah.
And I'd like we'll call it the Alyssa package deal.
Only prerequisites, have to have a lot of gluten-free food, and your dog has to be highly trained.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay? Yeah. That's all I asked for. Checking in. How are we feeling, Deb?
No, I'm good.
Okay, she's back. The dog conversation lifted her spirits.
Well, this dog is not only beautiful. I mean, she is just as sweet as can be.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
I can't imagine having let go of her. It would be so painful.
Yeah, honestly, with all of the time and attention that's been put into that dog, I can't fathom that having an extra 2 kids would have been an issue for her.
She's really well behaved.
Deb's business segment.
Yeah, what is it?
Great question. Let's rehash it. A lot of times, people want to kind of overlead. They lead too much. It's called micromanagement. And they don't really care about the culture. They just want it their way or the proverbial highway. But there is an alternative to that, which is there are people who own businesses, who are in charge, who are not remotely capable, who actually don't want the responsibility that I had of watching a dog. They don't want the responsibility of running their business. They kind of want to hand it off to other employees or other managers. And that can cause a bit of chaos when everybody knows where the buck stops, but the individual's like, no, I'll pass that buck over here. And they're like, yeah, but you're the boss. You have to be the one who's shouldering the most, or who at least cares about what's happening here. And we've seen it a lot where people just say, I mean, it works the way it works, while everybody else is like screaming to high heaven for help.
Right. So, one of the things that happens in a lot of businesses is somebody has a gift or a talent or an education for something, and that's the thing they want to do, rightfully so. And so they start out doing that, in some cases, usually not all alone, but they are the basic, we'll call it breadwinner of the business, right? I mean, It's whatever it is they do, the service, the act, the sales, whatever it is, provides most of the income for the business. There's a certain place to where a business grows, and the owner has to pay some attention to the business, not to the actual everyday doing that makes money. And
what do we call that? The brand?
They have to take care of the brand, but they have to take care of the numbers.
Okay.
They have to take care of the HR stuff. And so obviously we're not talking about large, well-developed businesses that already have all of that in place.
Correct.
We're talking about businesses probably that are in growing spurts and have been that way for a while. But I've also seen this go on for years. One of the biggest things that I tell business owners a lot is, how much time are you spending on your business? And I'm not going to count like nights and weekends, because you should spend time on your business, meaning working on the business of your business, at least a day or two a week or something.
Wow.
And so they're neglect to do that because they think they're letting go of some cash over here, because that's not necessarily directly revenue generating, right?
Right.
The problem that ends up happening is that they don't have often clear guidance down the ranks of the employees. And so what ends up happening, do they have managers? Yes. Do they speak to their managers? I assume so. But I think if they just keep doing the daily grind of the thing that they started with, what ends up happening is they become less and less available because their heads are down. They're working like dogs, right?
Because in their mind, success is work output. And that's true, right? That's absolutely true. But when you're the owner, you also have to wear the hat of, what is success for this business? It's not just me working.
It's not just you working. And what does leadership look like in this kind of business that I've developed, that I've created? And it is really hard because I do think some employees recognize what they need. Might not be unlike a kid that needs some attention from their parents, and their parents are so preoccupied with something else, right?
For sure.
And while kids may be like, Mom, pay attention to me, employees are much less inclined to make that kind of declaration.
That hierarchy is just so clear that it would be weird to manage up to the person who's signing your paycheck.
I think, though, when the person is a good person and when the employees generally and genuinely have affection for the person, they think they're a good person and they see the thing they're in, I think they do want to say something. If it were a less than kind person, I would say, be careful and, beware. But I do think it's okay for an employee to be able to pull their manager aside or to be able to say, I want to talk to the owner, and just to be able to say, we see you having these other gifts and skills which we don't get the benefit of.
Right.
And we need them. It's important to our culture, if you will, but it's also important to us because the owner somewhere hopefully has a vision. And if they're really not in the trenches with the troops from time to time, that vision is getting lost somewhere. And then employees really will substitute their own vision in,
sure,
right or wrong. And that's where, businesses become, so discombobulated. And where if you could go interview 15 employees, say, what's the vision of this company? What's our goal? And you would get 15 different answers.
Absolutely. So then here's my question to you. I'm going to push the envelope further. Say the owner, she's just a great, sweet, kind-hearted person who you can come talk to about this stuff all the time. And every employee has. Hey, we need a little more guidance. Hey, I know it feels like your schedule is full, but there's still a lot we can do. And everything is met with everything is met with a positivity. And then it just keeps falling off the same way over and over and over, to where she's now non-verbally saying, I understand your issues and your complaints, but they're clearly not resonating with me / important enough for me to actually change anything. I guess, what should an employee do in that matter, and what's the ultimate fallout?
Well, the problem with that, and especially if the employer really has affirmed that it's a problem and at least quasi made a commitment that it's going to be better and then not followed through. Ultimately what that leads to is low morale, people being discouraged, people talking about, it might come out like saying like, we really don't have good communication here, instead of describing, you know, actually how it is. You know, we're tired. I mean, I've heard a lot of employees say we're not heard. You know, I mean, we speak, but we're not really heard. And, you know, then people, it depends on how frustrating it is for them, start looking elsewhere. I mean, I think that's what happens is, and the terrible part about it is it's not usually the bad employees that go. It's the good employees that go.
The good ones always, because they're so mentally and physically exhausted of what probably to them literally feels like banging their head against the wall, that they've probably stayed even longer than they should.
Of course.
Because they want to do right by this person. But at the point where the writing is on the wall that nothing is going to change regardless of how you treat this person, they have to bail. I mean, they have to bail for their own sanity.
For their own sanity. And one, you know, there's all sorts of different personality types and all sorts of different people. We all like to work in different ways.
True.
And some people, it really takes change is hard for them. And they have to, you know, kind of find a lot of facts, think about it a lot, meander it, spend time with it. And what those people don't do usually is share that process they're going through, meaning the intention of making the change or doing it differently, so that people at least know, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel. This is going to happen. I'm just a little slower on the uptake because of the way that I process and think. That's normally not communicated effectively. Wherein lies the problem. There are other people that are like, okay, enough is enough. Let's do it. Let's get it going. Let's kick it into gear. And that's great for those employees that have been frustrated, because then they really do feel heard. But it is imperative that an employer kind of understand their own style, because I know I've gone into offices and I've said to people, I'm not necessarily saying anything magic. I would love to think like, oof, I came up with all the magic and now all the difference has been made. But they've heard it before. And whoever said it before kind of laid the groundwork. And I might have just said it differently enough.
Right.
It could be that they were ready, right? It could be that, I mean, they're sick of themselves for not doing it,
for
right?
Sure.
Or they might not even do it with me. I've also seen that happen with good intention. And then I realized that I'm just part of the process too. It'll be somebody after me,
right?
You know, that makes the change.
Maybe,
right. But I do think if you want to keep good employees, you have to keep that conversation open and going, because if employees don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's way down there, if they don't see it, there's just no reason to stick around.
So if you put your coaching hat on and say there's a business owner who is so sweet and so sincere, like, I guess I'm trying to just make this hard on you for like, if they're a jerk, then it's easy for everybody to be like, okay, see you later, guy, whatever.
I mean, they don't want the confrontation.
Right. But if they're this nice human being at their core, and they're clearly just trying to appease everyone, even though they think they themselves are in over their head.
Yeah.
And it's just this continuous cycle of like, hey, we need you to do this. Got it. Month later, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about this? Got it. Month later, nothing's changed. What would you say to the business owner? Kind of acknowledging that maybe you're there not by their ask, but somebody else has brought you in. Mm-hmm. What can you say to them in a meaningful way? Granted, they have to be open to hearing it, but that would help them just start taking baby steps forward of being culpable for the success of this business, where they're clearly the reason that it's not succeeding.
So one of the things that I would explore is when there is a lack of communication, like really clear, direct communication, we all just put our own thing on it. Like, oh, maybe she's depressed. Oh, maybe she doesn't like us. Oh, maybe she's burned out. Oh, maybe she's having problems at home.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody just takes their own junk and puts it in the rabbit hole of the what ifs.
And are we doing that like as an excuse, or are we doing that as just trying to rationalize?
I think we start out trying to give them some bandwidth.
Yep.
And so we say, oh, I know she's under a lot of pressure at home.
Got it.
Oh, I mean, I know execution of big change is hard for her.
Yep.
Right. Oh, I mean, I feel like she's kind of been depressed. Don't you think?
Got it.
Oh, she's certainly overwhelmed for sure. So I think it starts out as excuse making for the person. Right. And then I just think it becomes like, what the heck? And it becomes intolerance, right? Like
sure.
now we did care why, now we don't care why.
Right. We gave you the benefit of the doubt, and now we're over that.
And then it just becomes, and this is the bad part. And actually, all of that I just said could be untrue, but people are reading their own thing into it. She doesn't care about the business. She doesn't care about us. She doesn't care about the clients. This isn't a priority anymore. I mean, it very quickly tips into that. And then it very quickly tips into, this could be a sinking ship.
Totally.
Which, like, that might all be false, right? But employees talk to each other. That's the kind of stuff that you see unravel. And then all it takes is one to leave. And then, everybody wants to escape the sinking ship.
So then what do you say to the boss? Like, what do you, Deb Z, say to the boss?
So one of the things I will explain that. I'll explain how it can be perceived, because usually I insist on talking to the employees.
Sure.
So I will give them data on the responses that I get. Like 100% of your employees think you're overwhelmed and exhausted and not available, right?
Right.
So I would come right out and say, that kind of thing. But then the other thing I would say is, what's really the issue here? Is this a symptom or is this the issue? Are you burned out? Are you depressed? I see.
Do you actually want to do this?
Right. Do you want to do this? Because I'm reading at best a lethargy in you, right? And, what do we need to do to bring you back up to your game? Sometimes you really have this conversation with people about, is it time to sell the business and move on and do something else? I think when you can talk, though, and go into those extremes, because those are pretty big words, lethargy, depressed, don't care, sell the business, that sort of smack people upside the head a little bit and makes them really look at it.
Yeah.
And then what you really get to is, what do we need to do to make you excited and present and happy to be here, so that everybody else can feed off of that a little bit, right?
Yep.
And that you can actually be motivation and inspiration for everybody and not act like you're just exhausted and, your hands are full every second of the day.
Yeah.
So I think, by the time I'm normally hired by business owners, and so I think that by the time I'm hired, people are ready to make change.
Right.
Every once in a while, I don't think it happens a lot, but every once in a while I realize I'm just a cog in the process.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't time, but they wanted to go through it one more time with somebody, and, and they made commitments and still, it didn't get done.
Have you ever seen, and I don't know this, I'm asking this question genuinely, have you actually ever seen somebody continue to go down a path where staff just has all left and they've had to try to manage it themselves, and then in the heat of the moment they hired people they should have never hired, and then ultimately it's just the business is over? I've
never seen the business completely over, but that hasn't been my experience. But I will say staff leaves, and because the owner has been involved in this other thing, the owner didn't quite completely understand everything that everybody was doing. And if some key people leave, who trains them?
Totally.
It's awful. And so then you end up just making frantic hires, and I'm not saying it's just a warm body, but it's a thing out of fear, right? You choose out of fear.
Sure.
And you choose out of a little bit of panic. And sometimes you have to go through that a few times before you finally take a deep breath and go, okay, I've got to look at the problem. Right? We are our own worst enemies, is the human experience, for sure.
You got to Taylor Swift that thing and say, what's the constant in all of these things? It's me.
It's me. And sometimes that's exactly what it is.
All right, Deb, put a big bow on lack of leadership in the workplace.
I think that a lot of, so here's what I think. I think if somebody starts a business, that they love doing, right? Let's say that a drywall guy worked for a contractor, and he's the greatest drywall guy in the world, and he loves it. And he wanted to open his own drywall business, right? Well, he opens the business, and then he realizes he doesn't really love the business side of it,
right?
But he loves still being a good drywall guy, and he's good at it, right? I mean, he can get somebody in there that can run his business jointly with him, if you will, if he still wants to be doing some of the drywall, because that makes him feel good, because he's an expert. He likes to teach everybody how to do it right. I mean, he can do that, but he's got to recognize he just can't leave the business like a baby flailing.
Right.
I mean, and the business isn't only drywall. The business is customer service. The business is, sometimes complaints. The business is
employees
and finances and taxes and QuickBooks and marketing and all of that. But if he doesn't have a knack for that and doesn't really have a great interest in it, then he needs to get somebody in there that can really do that part for him.
Love it.
Still be an owner.
Perfect. How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Oh, she's alive, guys. I'm not even going to check in this next time. She's alert. Her pupils are dilated. She's ready to rock. I like that. That was a fun topic because it's different, because that's not like a major issue in businesses. Like, most people start a business with the belief that they want to run it their way and shade more towards the dictatorship than anything else. But oftentimes there are people who were phenomenal employees and they thought, oh, I can do this. And they don't realize the scope of the I can do this. And then they just kind of regress back to the mean, which is, well, I'm just going to be a good employee for myself.
For myself. Exactly.
3 new questions for Dear Debbie. 2 are business related. One's more personal, but I think the personal one actually has something to do with business today. So
okay,
let's get going.
Okay.
Question number 1.
Yes.
Dear Debbie, I've been in retail for 12 years. My husband and I own a retail store. A customer moved here a few months ago. He's retired and lives with his wife, daughter, and grandchild. He's bored and doesn't want to be around his family. So he has started spending every day in our store, wasting our time. He bothers customers with his stories and traps them for hours at a time. He has purchased some items, so he is buying from us, but I can tell you he just wants a place to hang out. He is loud and intrudes into other people's conversations when they are at the counters. He also has taken a liking to one employee who works Saturdays and has started spending 4 to 5 hours every Saturday coming in and trying to make conversation about anything with that employee. I have never had to deal with this kind of customer. I don't know how to tell him he can't hang out at our store. He's basically using us as an outlet to talk to people and keep himself out of his house. Please help. I want to say it in a nice way, but I think anyway is going to hurt his feelings. As a former owner of a restaurant where people thoroughly enjoyed hanging out and talking to all of us, you have some shared knowledge on this.
Well, we sort of invited them in to do that. It was
True.
A little bit different.
We were the opposite of McDonald's at the time, where we encouraged you to stay pretty much as long as you wanted.
Exactly. You think about a retail shop. I mean, he's just standing there.
That's what's really bizarre to me is there's a piece of me that says like, okay, if she's talking about like a little boutique store, what's a guy doing there? But then maybe there's some chairs. Maybe they're like a little more elegant. They offer you like coffee and water while you're there. But that's a weird place to carve out a space.
So here's what I don't know if this is a good answer at all, but here's what I might do. It felt to me like the descriptors felt to me like he thinks they're friends.
Sure, totally.
Okay. Now, obviously, they don't feel the same way.
Nope.
But if he feels like they're friends, what I might do if I'm the husband or the wife.
Just start inviting him over to the house.
No.
Okay.
I might say, hey, do you want to walk down the street and have a cup of coffee?
Oh, gosh. So here we're rolling the dice initially because now he's like, oh, now we're really good friends. We're getting coffee together.
Exactly. And so then I would go have coffee with him. I'd kind of check in with him. And I would say, hey, you come by every day and you are like a great guy. All the employees love you. But your presence there is a little bit of a distraction to the work that I'm trying to get them to do.
Yep.
You're fun. You're funny. I would probably give him, you're gregarious. I'd probably give him, this is my first effort,
You're going to kill him with kindness.
Kill him with kindness. And I'm just going to say, look, we don't mind if you stop in, but stopping in is like 10 minutes. It's not hours, especially on the weekends when we're not there, because things are not getting done because my staff feels like they need to entertain you. Now, if you want to invite anybody for coffee, have at it. Just like me, I'm happy to come down here and have a cup of coffee with you. But just hanging out, having our store be the hangout, probably isn't going to work in the future. That's probably what I would try, though I think that's a difficult conversation to have.
But do you worry that extending like the olive branch to going to a secondary location is going to affirm in this guy that you're way better friends than you really are? Because clearly he's struggling with boundaries. And now you're saying to him, hey, come on over here, Boundary Bob. I'm going to buy you something, tell you how important you are, but then just tell you you can't be here that much.
Well, Boundary Bob is, so I have to say that message loud and clear.
Sure.
I'm trying to do it in the kindest way possible.
Yep.
Because I don't want Boundary Bob, who wanders the community clearly, telling everybody, what a jerk I am.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, if Boundary Bob is really nice and wants to invite me for a cup of coffee periodically, I'll go do it, but not every day, not every week.
Okay. So what happens if you have this conversation with him and he keeps showing up and he's there more now because you've unintentionally enfranchised him to just...
Then I'm going to have to go up to him in the shop and say, hey, remember we talked about you being here 10 or 15 minutes. Bob, you're really going to have to go. We've got a lot to do today.
Got it.
You're going to have to say that. Yeah, for sure.
There's a piece of me that's like, oh, this guy's homeless.
No, they just said he has a wife and...
Well, that's what he says. I don't know that they've ever met her.
We have to go with the story, whatever it is, Kev.
I'm just letting you know, there's a little thing in the back of my head. It's like, this isn't Boundary Bob. This is a homeless Harry situation.
They didn't describe him as being homeless.
Listen, maybe there's a fountain nearby. Maybe he went to the back of an Old Navy where they threw out some, slightly askew shirts. So he's got a fresh wardrobe. I'm just saying, he sounds like a Boundary Bob, but he could be a homeless Harry.
Here's the thing about it. If it's the right business, like you say, a coffee shop or a bakery or, something like that, we had people that for years came in every single day. Every single day. And it was their event of the day, kind of.
Yeah, help pay for college.
You helped pay for college, exactly. And we never were tired of seeing them, right? And so, I think that the person just has to say, those kind of places welcome you.
Yeah, that is the construct of a coffee shop in the 90s. Right. Come be here as much as you want.
Come hang out and we will visit with you and entertain you a little bit.
Totally.
And we would even say, we had it where somebody wanted to talk to me and I couldn't get away from it.
It's true.
And one of you would come up and say, hey, sorry, Boundary Bob, I need Deb for a minute, right? You'd rescue me from it. But you have to be, you just have to say it. You have to say it.
Question number 2. Dear Debbie, our family owns a bar in a resort community. I run it, along with my mom and 2 of my sisters. Added to the mix is one of my brothers-in-law. We'll call him Jeff. Jeff is the problem. Jeff manages the bar some nights, and he is becoming increasingly difficult to work with. He does a good job of managing in most areas. However, he is impossible to talk to. At the ripe old age of 26, he has become a know-it-all. If he thinks he's being criticized, he becomes combative, bossy, or defensive. He is also very sensitive and, frankly, very immature. I understand that Jeff loves our business and is dedicated to his job, but the problem is the way he talks over everyone. He also likes to hold his position over employees, and his refusal to listen to what others have to say is making an impossible situation. If he wasn't a part of the family, he would not be working here in his current capacity. I've tried explaining that he must choose his words more carefully and that he needs to listen and be a part of the team rather than always the boss. But nothing gets through. I'm reluctant to upset the natural balance of our family or hurt Jeff or my sister, but something must be done. We're losing good employees and customers because of his attitude. What can I do? Family stuff is brutal.
It's brutal. Well, and especially because he's married into the family. He's not part, original family, you can just take each other to task, right? But when what was the part about, I'm hesitant to upset the balance of the family?
Yep.
That's already happened.
Of course. Because he's already upset the balance on your end. So it's already upset.
Jeff has done it.
Yeah.
Jeff has done it. So, the one thing, is that a he or she? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
But the one thing that person didn't mention is like, where's Jeff's wife? Have we not talked to her to try to talk to Jeff? Because, I mean, it sounds like they've tried the direct approach with Jeff, right? And then I think it's like, sit the wife down and go, look, Jeff's going to be out of here if Jeff doesn't make some changes. I mean, we just need for you to know this.
This is going to be like a majority vote thing?
Well, I think so. And I think like the business was supposed to be a family business. I don't think when people say, like, if you and I have a business together, I'm not assuming that your one day would-be wife is going to be a part of it.
Sure.
I mean, possibly.
That's very rude of my supposed future wife, Deb. I'm going to stick up for her right now.
Okay. But I mean, possibly.
Sure.
But that's not built into a family business concept.
Right. Just because they are now technically family does not give them unfettered access to the family business.
To the family business. Exactly. And I think it's better to draw those lines ahead of time. I think sometimes those things happen just because we're trying to be nice and inclusive, but we didn't really give it all the thought, that it should have been.
Do you have to come with, as the kids say, receipts to Jeff saying like, this person left, the customer complaints are through the roof. And prior to you being here, we had employees who averaged like 2.5 years of employment. We've never received this volume of customer complaints. It always had to do with just like the actual products we were serving. I mean, not that that's necessarily going to resonate with him, but is that at least how you open the door to it?
Well, I do think that, but they said also that Jeff was incredibly defensive, and he thinks he's right. I mean, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't even know if he can hear that because he's probably rationalized all those things away as being somebody else's fault. Yep. I mean, and then the real fallout here is if we fire my sister's husband, right? Yep. Like, will he come over for Thanksgiving? I mean,
doesn't sound like you want him over there anyways.
Well, I mean, Jeff doesn't sound like my cup of tea. I'm going to say
no,
that.
ma'am.
But I mean, then that's why you have to be very careful with, family businesses, because you spend Thanksgiving and Christmas and lots of other times together. And if somebody's not being the right cog in the workplace, I don't know. I would try with Jeff and attack it sooner than later. I probably, if it were me, would pull my sibling in and go, come on. Yeah. You've got to have, it's got to fall on you, because if it can fall on the spouse a little bit, I mean, Jeff can probably hear it better, right, than from somebody else.
I mean, I think I run it along with my mom and 2 of my sisters. So it's 25%. So in order to get a majority, you need 3 of the 4.
Yeah, which sounds like they can probably get.
Right. Yeah. And then it's you got to shape up or ship out. Yeah. And if after a month it's the same thing, it's the 75% like, Jeff, we love you as a human being. You're the best brother-in-law in the world, but you suck at managing this restaurant.
Exactly. And then we'll just see how long Jeff holds on to stuff, right?
Jeff sounds like he's going to lash out in anger.
I think so too. I think he won't come for Thanksgiving.
No, ma'am. Yep. If he does, it'll be like 10 Molson Ices deep. Question number 3. Dear Debbie, this is a great question. I have a coworker who brings photos, stories, videotapes, you name it, of her children to work. Usually the stories are mundane and go something like this. My child made a heart-shaped paper at school today. She used her purple scissors and smiled at her teacher while doing it. She's right-handed, just like me. Last week, she made a star-shaped paper, and on and on and on. I learned to smile politely and to excuse myself after 60 seconds. Others, feeling obligated, would stand and listen to her droning on even though there was work to be done. Co-workers who are not parents have confided that quote-unquote diaper talks between mothers are extremely disgusting to be subjected to during lunchtime. For the record, I'm a mother, but I save my kid talk for after work. If the subject arises during lunchtime, I make it short so others have a chance to talk too. Mm-hmm. How do we combat an oversharing coworker?
The kid thing is hard.
The kid thing is hard because everybody goes blind to the fact that nobody cares about your kid as much as you do.
I mean, you and I are together a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, we work together sometimes. We do this together. We live together. So there's a lot of like Kevin this, Kevin that. And I feel like I have to check myself a lot, right?
Totally.
And in my life, it's kind of like son, friend, business partner, pal.
You want to see a picture of my kid? Yeah, great. How old is he? 36. What?
Yeah, exactly.
He cut a star out of crepe paper today.
Exactly. So, he learned how to make tortillas in Mexico City.
Look at him.
But I do think there are these people. So I think there's this thing where you can talk about your kids, and when it's healthy, like everybody, this story made me think of that story, made the other one think of this story, and you all are laughing. And in fact, I had that the other night with a bunch of women, and it was...
They were all talking about their 9-year-olds, and you're like, funny about your 9-year-old.
Well, no, one was talking about a darling 10-month-old, right? So, but then the rest of us that had older kids were going
Speaking of 10 months old, my son still lives at home.
Well, we were laughing. We're like, wait until they're this, and wait until we're telling her stories and just horrifying her, right?
Yep.
But I mean, it was a natural cadence. Everybody talked, everybody shared. But sometimes there's that person that just, I think, is so enthralled with motherhood. And, and
they're the first person to ever be a mom.
And the first person to ever be a mom. And like, I don't even know how civilization got here before they gave birth, right?
Yep.
And they just are so in love with their kids, which they fail to realize we all are.
Totally.
Right? And they can't stop. They just tell you minutia. They tell you stuff like too much information, stuff I don't care about. And I think they have sweet, creative stories, but those somehow get lost in the muck and the mire. And I don't know if you can say anything to those kind of moms.
There's a true gender gap as it relates to this kind of thing, because this is often perpetrated by a woman on other women.
Yeah.
I think if a woman is just trying to share something like this with a man, she knows I have like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to get from this guy. I'm going to get a, oh, that's sweet. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Have a great day, Sharon. We'll talk to you later. Guys, when they share stuff about their kids, are often doing it in a look how dumb my kid is type thing. Like, hey, I was kicking a soccer ball and I accidentally kicked it at my kid and it just clocked him right in the face. Do you want to see the video? Of course I do. Stuff like that, to where it's usually not making fun of, but certainly in a more humorous way, where of course I want to see a kid getting hit in the face with a soccer ball. That's funny.
But you know what I do think men do, and especially kids of the same age, I think men will one-ups each other in their children's
eventually, for sure,
athletic prowess or something like that.
Oh yeah, my son's playing in Little League right now. You're like, mine too. He's like, yeah, what age group? You're like, I mean,
exactly. What and what's his batting?
Yeah. He's playing with 14 and older. He's only 13. You're like, oh yeah, that seems like a stretch.
Guy. Or like, oh my. And when people tell me all the time, my kid is so tall, and I'm like, yeah, I already know that story.
Yeah, same.
So I do think dads do it a little bit differently, but I think the stuff that is typically dad pride, if you will, that stuff comes out.
Would you ever say anything to this woman?
I probably wouldn't, honestly.
You just sit back and bear down.
I can think of a couple examples where I have never said anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think the kid thing is too, because I guess here's what I think. Like, the kids are fine. The kid is perfectly fine.
What if it's a super ugly kid though?
Stop it. The kids are fine usually. I mean, the kids are just normal. And if the kids were older and had some perspective, they'd probably be like, Mom, stop it,
Totally.
But I do think that, no. I don't know how you kids are just off.
Yeah.
Off
you bite the bullet on this one, and you listen to old Sharon from HR share the kid pics.
Yeah. And you just, don't bring up kids, if you can help it.
And if you're the guy, you just walk by, take a quick glance with your cup of coffee and go lock yourself inside your office.
Exactly.
Deborah, as we wind this podcast down, you've done an exceptional job. This is true play like a champion. You showed up, you're exhausted, you look great, you've added all this fantastic content. Nobody would know the difference. Good on you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Nice.
What are you thankful for this week?
Well, I was able to be a volunteer at a nonprofit event this weekend.
Cool.
That was a big deal. And gave some low-income people some access to medical care that they wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yep.
And I had a very, very learning moment. Like, I was literally one moment complaining about something in my life, and maybe doing a little bit of a poor me kind of thing.
Sure, we've all been there.
And then went out to help this woman, and we were kind of videotaping, her experience and everything. And I'll say her name. Her name is Beverly, and she was lovely. She was 78. And Beverly sat there and it was just like so grateful, said she was so humbled by, the way she was treated and the care that she got. And she said, people like me that, are on a very limited income could never think to be able to go through this process. And she's being so sweet. And then in the storytelling, Beverly is like very involved in prison ministries.
Oh, wow.
And really helps. Just really like dedicated.
One of those good people.
Oh, Kevin, you have no idea. And then like 2 of Beverly's daughters have died. You just, and Beverly's not telling this, like there's no pity on it. There's no sad on it. It's just the story of her life. Right. And I looked at the person who was with me during my pity party as we're sitting there talking to Beverly and she's teary. We're getting teary. It's so sweet listening to this woman's life. And I looked at her and said, if you ever hear me complain again, like beat me with a bat. I am so grateful for Beverly and her beautiful story, and that here is somebody that has so little, but gives and gives and gives and gives. And it's a reminder to all of us, how do they say, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yep.
It blew me away. And this woman's essence was pure and lovely. She was just full of positivity and love. It was amazing.
You heard it here first. If any point in time on this podcast you hear Deb complaining, you get to show up at our front door, baseball bat in hand, and just take a couple of swings.
Yeah, maybe one.
One swing. And she'll just stand there and you can launch on whatever apparatus of her body feels necessary.
Yep, I'll do it. It is such a reminder of all, that we have, right?
Yep.
And, it's like the worst thing in the world has happened to her twice.
Yeah.
And yet.
Here she is
doing
still trying to make
for other people.
Still trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Love that. That's great.
And she had, what was interesting, what I thought for you was interesting.
Oh, okay.
Is she had this beautiful little wooden cross necklace on.
Yep.
And she held, and I said, and it was nice. And I said, that's beautiful. And she said, that's my Kairos cross.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I thought, that made me like her right away.
Clearly.
Anyways. Yeah.
Shout out Beverly. Did you tell her about the podcast?
I did not. Beverly doesn't know about the podcast.
Always be selling, Deborah.
But it's out there. This goodness, I hope that it goes straight to Beverly, wherever she is today.
We love you, Beverly.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I felt like I had a little mini vacation. I know that sounds awkward because we just came back from Mexico, but I felt like a little mini vacation this week. I wasn't at the house. I wasn't really around the house. I was south of town. I don't ever spend any time south of town. We just don't really in general, unless we literally have to go there for something. It was just a nice break from the monotony of the every single day. And Alyssa has a beautiful house. She clearly has a beautiful dog. It's easy to get in and out of. And it was just an extremely nice little stay-kay, vacay away from the everyday.
I thought it was I love Alyssa's house. In fact, I said that to you when I brought the watermelon over.
Sure.
And, but it made me laugh when I was leaving because Alyssa's house, clearly a woman lives there.
Yep.
And there's a lot of essence of pink.
Oh, yeah.
And like a white couch,
oh, yeah.
right? And I left thinking, this is just so cute. Like he's playing house in this sweet feminine place.
Yeah.
Right?
On Saturday morning, I woke up, fed the dog, showered, made myself some coffee. It had been really warm this weekend. So I was out in the backyard, no shirt on, throwing the ball for the dog, sipping on my coffee, heard the birds chirping. And I was like, oh, this got really real. This is some adult stuff right now. I think there was jazz music playing in the kitchen. It was just a real glimpse into what life could be if I so chose it. Right. Yeah.
If you would just move away.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Deb, with no pressure whatsoever for this evening, what do you think might possibly be for dinner?
This could be very difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I don't even know what's in the house.
I don't even know what's in the house. I haven't been here. We are going to have something for dinner tonight.
Yep, that's true.
And we'll post whatever it is. I don't know what declaration to make because I don't know what we have.
That's fair. I'm going to assume we have some kind of fish And it's probably going to be a salad-y thing. That's my guess.
Let's do that.
That's going to be my guess. I don't know what it's ultimately going to be. It could be Chipotle for all I know.
Yeah, it could, and it could be a salad from Chipotle.
So as we say that, and as we wrap this up, the best way for you to find out what we ultimately have for dinner is to follow us on all of our social platforms, where we not only show you what we have for dinner, oftentimes we tell you how to cook it. So if you want to know what we actually end up eating, follow us at Deb and Kev Pod, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, some other place, Twitter.
Perfect segue, Kev.
Thank you.
Perfect segue.
Deb, like I said, you did a great job. I would never have known.
I think I'm going to go do stuff.
Oh my gosh. The podcast has given the woman life.
I think I'm not going to go straight upstairs and have a nap. I think I'm going to go do stuff.
I love that for you. That's going to do it for this Monday's episode of the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like, rate, and review wherever you listen to this podcast. And like I said, follow us on all of our social channels. You can watch this podcast at our YouTube channel at Deb and Kev. Deborah, love you so much. Happy you're home in one piece.
Baby, I love you.
She's leaving again this week. We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter at Deb and Kev Pod.